So, the engine. When we were looking for our boat, this is one of the things that we paid a bit more attention to really than we did when we purchased a previous boat. So this boat's got a Volvo Penta MD2030, so a 30 horsepower diesel 3-cylinder. And particularly it was the maintenance of the engine. So we looked for a few things. We just go around the side. So hopefully there's enough light to see down here. But these have a Saildrive, and this seal here needs to be changed every, I think it's every 7 years. So this has just been changed. So this engine would have had to be pulled forward. The Saildrive gets split from here. You take the Saildrive out of the boat, obviously when it's out of the water. You then replace the seal in the bottom and you put the whole thing back together. It's a good idea at the same time to change the oil in there, because the Saildrive has oil in it as well as the engine. So it's a good idea to do that, and to do any other work on that leg while it's out. So anoids, check the prop, check for any leaks, all that sort of stuff. Anti-foul it. Again, it's a special anti-foul because it's an aluminium leg, so you have to put a special anti-foul on. The oil is here for the Saildrive, and the engine oil is over here. So yeah, so again, you want to look for a nice clean engine. So again, all down here, make sure it's nice and clean, no signs of leaks. Check the wiring, check for any corrosion on anything. Just do your best, obviously just buy what you can. But I think if you're looking at boats and you find a couple of boats that you may be looking at, say 2 or 3 different ones, and one's got a slightly better engine or looks in slightly better condition than the others, then I'd potentially go for that one, because we're talking big money here if things start to go wrong, and it just basically spoils your day. So you don't want to spend time in here, you want to be out there. So I do actually have an issue with this, having said all that. I've got a tachometer issue, nothing major, so I'm just going to make sure that all my connections down here are okay and we haven't got any wires that are adrift. There's a couple of tests that I can do when the engine's running to basically see that we have got an output from the, I think it's the W wire, so it's this black. Is that black? Is it brown and grey? Black and grey wire here. So we're just going to check that terminal there to make sure we have got power coming out of that. This is an interesting little gadget as well. There's different fuses in here, so if you blow a fuse and you're out sailing, you basically pull this off and move on to the next one. So again, we had a, I think it was a 2001, so it was a single cylinder Volvo Penta in a previous boat with a Saildrive. And I remember looking at this thing and doing a bit of research on it to see actually what it was. But basically it's 4 fuses, so that if you do blow a fuse on the engine electronics, you can move across to a different one. You've basically got 3 spares to get you home. So by the looks of things, this is the starter solenoid, alternator, heat exchanger. Again, these are things you have to check. Oh, that was the other thing. The exhaust elbow was changed. I don't know if anybody follows Salty Lass, but theirs broke, filled the boat with water, and basically corroded somewhere either here or here. And you've got water and exhaust fumes obviously coming through there, so that if that thing pops off, that's fun and games. But again, make sure you've got decent clips, make sure your exhaust hose is in good condition. Get this changed. If there's any signs of corrosion here, just change it. Don't wait. It's not a big job. It's a few bolts, take this off, few bolts there, get a new one of them on. Because again, that'll spoil your day. Other than that, in here we've got a split charging, I think these are called a diode, so the power goes into that and then it splits out to the various batteries that we've got on board, to the starter battery and also the service battery. It just means that the batteries are isolated from each other, so when we're running the electronics and things, we can't actually flatten the battery. Well, we should be able to flatten the starter battery anyway. This adverc is supposed to be some sort of battery management device, and I think it slightly boosts the voltage at the batteries to compensate for this, because you lose a volt here with this charging diode, and I think that can make a little bit of difference. I've not done much research on it, to be perfectly honest, so I don't really know what it does. Header tank, fresh water strainer is in there, so when the water comes into this engine at the front through that fella there, the seawater pump, and before it comes in, it comes up the pipe through the leg to the seawater strainer to make sure there's no bits in it that's basically going to knacker the pump, because it's just a rubber impeller. Out here, through the pump, through the heat exchanger, because the engine is fresh water cooled, and then that gets dumped back down the exhaust and out it goes. And that's what you see basically coming out the back of the yacht. So this is very much similar to, you can see, again, good clear hoses, so that's always a good thing. You can see if water's in them. So yeah, so the nice thing with the heat exchanger is that obviously it heats your hot water, so you get hot water when the engine's running. So we're going to investigate this. Okay, so we're running now. You can see the fresh water being pumped through here with a clear hose. So hopefully that's a good flow of water going through the heat exchanger and out through the exhaust. This is all nice and cold, so I can touch this still, but obviously when that starts getting a bit warm, it's only just started. When that starts getting a bit warm, you've got to be careful. Again, you've got to be careful around these parts, because these parts are all spinning now. So you could do yourself a bit of a mischief, really. So what we're going to do is we're going to check the back of this alternator. That post there to ground should have a voltage on it. Then I'm going to repeat the test up at the pedestal to see whether we've got the same reading up there. Otherwise, then we've got a problem in the wiring harness, or something's just come adrift somewhere. So that's the process we're going to go through. Okay, so I've got the panel out now, and I've checked between S plus and ground, which is the same test that I did at the alternator, and I've got 6.67 down there, and I've got 6.67, 6.68 up here, so I've got exactly the same reading. So I guess my tack's bust, which is a real shame, because that means I've got to change it. I've got to spend some cash. Never mind. Just while we're here, I've got a couple of extra wires. So this wire here is going to the fuel gauge, and this yellow comes up from the that sensor, that unit downstairs, that charge controller, and it's got an extra green light on here, which just means if that green light's lit, which it isn't, it's not very bright really, but in the direct sunlight, but that green light's lit, we've got a problem. I don't know why you use green, you probably should use red really, but that's what it is. 12 volts as well, so that's all good. Shame that, never mind.